A massive information leak about Chapters 6 and 7 of Fortnite has surfaced online, revealing tons of content from upcoming seasons. A major plot breakthrough in the next season, a new cosmic threat, a return to the roots, superhero abilities, somehow the Simpsons are involved, and much, much more. And before I dive into the actual leak, let me start with what this leak actually is. On the night of May 7th to 8th, a thread appeared simultaneously on several major platforms from an anonymous insider who claimed to have extremely reliable sources. The leak lists, point by point, everything that's supposedly going to happen in Fortnite from summer 2025 to winter 2026. That's a time span of 9 months, which is quite a lot. Still, most of the information focuses specifically on the upcoming season. It includes descriptions of the storyline, gameplay mechanics, and everything in between. There's not as much detail about what comes after that, but even so, some moments are absolutely mind-blowing. So now I'll break down the entire leak in chronological order, but most importantly, at the end, we'll figure out what's real, and what's just a very convincing fake. So grab some popcorn and get comfy. Is the upcoming Fortnite season Chapter 6 Season 3 or Chapter 6 Season 4? We don't have a confirmed answer for this question right now, but since the Star Wars season is designated in the game's metadata as Chapter 6 MS1, Mini Season 1, it stands to reason that next season will be called Season 3. So, the first part of the leak is entirely dedicated to Chapter 6 Season 3, which is set to launch this summer on June 7th. The main storyline will revolve around Daigo, who has joined the dark side. The insider reveals a bit about this and says that the Magic Mask Maker will try to create his own army of demons. But he won't be doing it alone. Core will come to his aid. Yes, that same Core from Chapter 2 Season 8 of Fortnite. Remember when the Cube Queen nearly destroyed the entire island, and Core was an agent of the Imagined Order at the time? Well, we didn't hear anything more about her, and now, 4 years later, her name appears in a major leak. And not just a passing mention, she's rumored to play one of the key roles in the upcoming season. However, it's still unclear what role exactly Core will play. It's unlikely that she remained an agent of the Imagined Order, especially considering what happened to the organization. Most likely, we'll see her as a demoness who gains her powers through Daigo. And I'm 100% sure that at the very least, Daigo's new skin, and possibly Core's too, will be included in the next season's Battle Pass. Now for the main question of the upcoming season. If Daigo has become so powerful and even built his own army of demons, then how can he be stopped? Well, the leak has an answer for that too. About a week before this leak appeared, there were already rumors that the next season would have a superhero theme. And no, it won't be Marvel this time. All the characters will be original, and this leak pretty much confirms that information. According to the insider, a full-fledged Superhuman Academy will appear on the island, funded by, yes, Midas himself, and I did not see that twist coming. Just a season ago, the Golden King was robbing banks and backing criminals, and now he's spending a fortune to build a superhero school. I'm almost 100% sure Midas isn't doing this out of the goodness of his heart. Most likely, as always, he has his own agenda, one we'll uncover as the season unfolds. On top of that, we already have a rough idea of where this new Superhero Academy will be located. The insider writes that a completely new biome and location, Utopia City, will replace the Seaport City and Shining Span area. From the name alone, it's about 99% likely that this will be the headquarters of the superheroes. But you're probably wondering, where are they going to get their superpowers from in the first place? At the moment, I don't have a definitive answer to that. However, it's worth recalling that there was some recent info suggesting that 0-point sprites are supposed to appear on Ononoshima. So it's very possible that the entire season will revolve around the 0-point or perhaps the Zero Shard. The theory is that the 0-point may grant our heroes their superpowers. And we already know that all the superheroes will belong to a faction called the Ascended, which literally implies that someone or something has elevated them to that status. If the superhero's faction name is the Ascended, what if one day they came across a Zero Shard in their reality, got powers from it and ascended into superheroes? If Daigo is going to be backed by Korra and the demons, then our ace in the hole will be Superman. Rumors about his arrival had surfaced a week before this leak, so it's very possible it's true. Right now, it's known that Superman will have his own location, the Fortress of Solitude, which will replace the Masked Meadows. Pretty ironic, considering what happened to Daigo. Additionally, we're going to get a new ability that allows players to feel like they're from Krypton. The insider compares it to Godzilla's ability from Chapter 6 Season 1, but I'd say it's more like the Doom's Chosen transformation from Doctor Doom. Most likely, only one player per match will be able to use Superman's power, which means there will be a real brawl over it. Also, Robin will arrive on Onanoshima. According to the Insider, he'll be included in the Battle Pass, though there's no information yet about his powers or weapons. If I had to guess, I'd bet on something like Batarang-style gear. And since we're talking about the Battle Pass, yes, it will be almost entirely superhero-themed. Besides Robin and possibly the new Superman, there will also be a character named Storm. And no, not the Marvel mutant who controls lightning. This is an original Fortnite character. She's described as a girl who can transform into a kind of storm beast, open portals, and fight with claws. Her powers will also appear in-game as an item. The whole superhero saga is expected to culminate in a final event, presumably involving a battle against Daigo and his demon army. Unfortunately, the Insider doesn't clarify whether this will be a mini-event or a full-scale live event. But considering we're already expecting a big event at the end of this current season involving the destruction of the Death Star, it's unlikely they'll go all out again right after that, though I'd love to be wrong. So for now, I won't jump to conclusions or spin any wild theories. And that's where the Chapter 6 Season 3 leak ends. The Insider then briefly mentions Season 4, but doesn't provide much detail, only 2 words: bug invasion. Honestly, I have no idea what that means. And more importantly, how that would even connect to the previous season. One theory is that we're not talking about ordinary bugs like cockroaches or flies, but some kind of alien threat, like space troopers in a Fortnite-style twist. That immediately made me think of an old concept that had been floating around online for a while: Amber Herald. If you look at her design, she strongly resembles a rhinoceros beetle, and her body is covered in amber, with tiny bug-like creatures visible inside. Of course, this is just a theory, but right now it seems like the most logical explanation. Especially considering Charlie Wen-style storytelling seems to be returning, with old characters being brought back into the plot. So an updated Amber Herald could definitely fill that role. Another version of the theory is that the bugs could come from another reality. As I mentioned earlier, Season the 3rd of may tie into the 0 Point or a fragment of it. And if you recall the scene from the Batman 0 Point comic where the Eternal Voyager dives into the 0 Point and is torn into trillions of pieces, you can spot not only realities of fish, sticks and dinosaurs, but also one full of bugs. And to me, that version actually sounds quite plausible. And now, things get totally wild. Because the next mini-season, which will conclude the entire chapter, is supposedly based on a Fortnite and the Simpsons collaboration. And I honestly have no idea how Epic is going to pull this off. If they barely managed to fit Star Wars into the game's lore, and even that raised questions, then integrating the Simpsons without wrecking the story is going to take some real creativity. Still, the Insider claims that locations from Springfield will appear on the island, along with characters from the show. As for Chapter 7, we know the least about it. So far, the only known detail is the theme of Season 2, which will focus on Norse mythology. Interestingly, Chapter 5 Season 2 also focused on mythology, but it was ancient Greece. Overall, it seems like Epic has been exploring different regions and cultures lately. We went from ancient Greece, then to Japan, and if this leak is correct, we'll soon head to the Nordic lands this winter. That has Charlie Wen's storytelling style written all over it. What caught my attention the most, though, is the main villain of Chapter 7. According to the leak, the villain will be the Darkness, yes, that same entity from the spirit realm. Assuming that we'll move to a new island at the start of Chapter 7, the big question is, how will the Darkness follow us there? Right now, there are more questions than answers. But it's clear that the Darkness is an important part of Fortnite's lore, especially if it doesn't get fully revealed in Chapter 6. Now, let's try to figure out what's real, and what's likely fake. As you may have noticed, the leak contains a lot of things we already knew about, even before this so-called insider shared them, like the superhero-themed season and Daigo becoming a major villain. But there are definitely moments that make you want to grab your head and ask, what is this? Personally, I think most of the info about the next season could actually be true. The thing is, we'd already heard about Superman, Daigo, and new superhero abilities before this leak showed up. So it's possible this insider just compiled all that known info to make the leak sound more legit. That's why anything about the later seasons, especially Chapter 7, should be taken with a grain of salt. We had a similar anonymous leak last year that turned out to be fake. In any case, we'll be able to verify this leak very soon, once the next season drops. And if everything in it turns out to be true, well, that would mean Epic messed up again, and their security system is still full of holes.